Hello, and welcome to our discussion on the second part of our discussion on the Bretton Woods organizations. Last week we encountered the International Monetary Fund, which is primarily responsible for maintaining the global financial system and also to help balance the books in respective countries that it works with. So this week, however, we're going to discuss the World Bank. The World Bank is the more well-known partner of the Bretton Woods organizations. It's also the organization that has the most impact on direct impact on the lives of the people who live in countries that participate in the World Bank and IMF programs. Specifically today we're going to discuss one unit of the World Bank, the International Development Association. This is the part of the World Bank that deals most directly with the poorest countries, and it also perhaps is the most controversial because of that and the nature of the programs that it engages in. So we're going to start by taking a quick overlook at the organization of the World Bank. It consists of five organizations: the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, which is the official and original name of the World Bank, and this was the name that was given to the organization when it was founded after World War II. But during the course of its history, it found that it had to deal with poorer countries, the poorest countries, in a different way. So it established the International Development Association to deal specifically with the world's poorest countries, and we'll discuss this in a little more detail in a moment. Then we have the International Finance Corporation, which is the part of the World Bank that deals with the global private sector. The World Bank is very much interested in encouraging private sector development throughout the world, and it has various facilities and various financial tools that are available to support private sector investors in various countries, various parts of the world, various types of projects. Then you have the Multilateral Investment Guarantee Agency, which is really a kind of insurance company, because when the World Bank encourages private sector investment, it also wants to offer protection to those investors through various insurance schemes, and the MIGA was set up specifically to do that. And finally, the International Center for the Settlement of Investment Disputes. Invariably, when you have investors operating in these different client environments, you're going to have different types of conflicts arising from misunderstanding, misinterpretation of contracts, failure to deliver on contracts. And so the World Bank has set up this international center, and not specifically to arbitrate these disputes. There are other mechanisms, both nationally based and also regionally and internationally based. But the International Center basically provides support to these arbitration organizations and courts that settle these kind of financial disputes. So there you have the sort of picture of the World Bank. Obviously, the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development is the biggest portion of the World Bank in terms of its own resources. But actually, we're going to be focusing today on the International Development Association, because this is the part of the World Bank that deals with the poorest countries. So, what is the IDA? It provides the largest source of assistance for the world's 77 poorest countries, 39 of which are in Africa. It's the single largest source of donor funds for basic social services in these countries. The International Development Association financed operations deliver positive change. That's their characterization of what they do. They deliver positive change for 2.8 billion people, the majority of whom survive on less than $2 a day. IDA lends money on concessional terms. This means that the IDA charges little or no interest, and repayments are stretched over 25 to 38 years, including a 5 to 10 year grace period. And the IDA also provides grants to countries at risk of debt distress, and that's a very big issue in the poorest countries, because many of those countries have, for one reason or another, taken on a lot of debt, and of course servicing that debt out of government revenues makes it more difficult to address social issues with internal investments. So the World Bank is now headed by Jim Yong Kim, who is an American. Traditionally, the World Bank is headed by an American, appointed by the American president, while the International Monetary Fund is typically headed by a European. Christine Lagarde is the French head of the International Monetary Fund, and we met her last week. So just to give you a sense of the scope of the World Bank's operations, they have the capacity to lend up to $28 billion a year, which means that their lending capacity overall will increase by up to $300 billion from $100 billion over the next 10 years. And as far as the International Development Assistance Program, the replenishment will consist of $52 billion in grants and concessional loans to support the poorest countries. So you can see from this that the World Bank is, from a financial point of view, in a very healthy situation, but that the money that's going to the poorest countries is just a small portion of their total budget. To give you some perspective, Google as a company had $50 billion in sales last year, which is equivalent to the total IDA budget, while Apple Computer had $170 billion in sales. So that gives you a sense of how much money is actually being spent on these development assistance programs to the world's poorest countries. Now, as I mentioned earlier, one of the big problems with the poorest countries is the amount of debt that they have. And the World Bank and the IDA have come up with a process for moving countries that are in debt and severe debt to a situation where they are almost debt-free, or whether or perhaps their debt is forgiven entirely. And they call that program the Heavily Indebted Poor Country Initiative. And this came out of largely criticism of both the bank and the IMF when it became clear that debt servicing as part of their strategy, as part of the structural adjustment programs, was really crippling many countries and making it impossible for them to do any kind of social investment at all. So the two key elements of the HIPC are the requirement that countries come up with a poverty reduction strategy paper, commonly known as a PRSP, which is really a detailed plan that helps fashion microeconomic, structural, and social policies that are going to promote growth and reduce poverty. and this is something that's usually done in cooperation with consultants from the World Bank or from other organizations, but that PRSP has to be in place. And once that's in place, then the International Monetary Fund also comes in with its Poverty Reduction and Growth Facility, which is a set of financial sort of financial tools that that the world's poorest countries can take advantage of to start reducing their debt. So once they have their strategy in place, and once they start implementing it, then there's an interim period where the organizations, the IMF, the World Bank, look after these plans and to see whether whether the conditions are being met. And if they meet the structural reform triggers, then they can go on to what is known as the Multilateral Debt Relief Initiative, which was formulated at the G8 conference in Glen Eagles in 2005, which essentially relieves a country's debt if it's met all the conditions implied by the PRSP and through the PRGF. So this is a set of hoops that that the world's poorest countries have to go through if they're going to work with the World Bank and the IMF on debt relief. Now, there are other types of programs, more project-oriented programs, that that countries can take advantage of without necessarily have to going through all of this. And as you know, if you explore the World Bank website, you can get very, very detailed information on all the different types of programs that they have on offer. And finally, this whole process is not without controversy. For one thing, it's extremely complicated. It takes a long time to to come up with these PRSPs. It's very expensive to have the consultants come in and help, and often in low capacity countries, it's very difficult for these countries to achieve this. And then the conditions that are required are often difficult to achieve, and the result is that the poorest people will suffer because of the type of cuts that this conditionality implies. Other problems is that the World Bank is overly rich world oriented. If you look at the staffing of the World Bank and the fact that it's located in Washington D.C. and that it operates like a like a very, very well endowed consulting company with a tremendous amount of bureaucracy. And then finally, the one big criticism is that there's a revolving door between government ministries and World Bank staff jobs, which sort of makes it very easy for the World Bank to continue operating as it does, because the people charged with often implementing these policies are often tapped for very very well paid jobs in the World Bank after they're through with their government service. This is not uncommon in other parts of the world and in other government institutions. I mean, it's something which is obviously rankles a lot of people, because it doesn't give enough critical perspective within countries on how the World Bank's operating. So that's what I wanted to say about the IDA, and I hope you will continue reading about it in this week's readings. Thank you.